welcome everyone today to our Insights webinar session. And today we'll be talking about basically getting Stratum ready for the new year, believe it or not. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What are the maintenance tasks you need to go through to make sure that Stratum's ready for 2026? So my name's Adam Kurtz, and I'll be guiding you today through these topics. And we'll be going through some of these steps together. I will show you the interfaces that you'll need to go to get to accomplish these tasks, basically. But it does help to know what categories that you're in and what that will hence dictate what calendars you need to maintain. So if you already have a good idea of that, um, that's great. If you don't, probably something you need to get on so that you can be informed about, exactly which ones you need to maintain and what type of calendars you need to create. So there's calendars, right, in the mix. We call them import and view calendars, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Defining and creating tables for the new year. Stratum on the very back end relational database stores the data by year. So basically, if you don't have any tables created for 2026 or anything going forward, um, you'll have no tables, and hence no data will be available. So that's something you'll want to avoid. Um, Indexes is if there's any indexes you want to build on those tables, that's something that you could review. Not as popular these days because of the web client doesn't really rely on those indexes. So essentially, it's something that the old interface uses for performance purposes. So if you're not running the web client, then certainly this is something you may want to do as well. All right. And then clean up. What is what can we do to add delete years in the Stratum connector so that we don't any longer need to bring them into the web environment. So I'm going to go ahead and just hop right into the demo. And then if you have any questions, go ahead and just reserve them. Uh, and you can always email me your questions, which I think will work better. Certainly, you can call me if you want, and there's my email address. So this also will be recorded on our YouTube channel. So if you want to go through this again, feel free to check it out on our YouTube channel. All right. With that being said, let's go into these interfaces, and we will go through these steps together and figure out how we would do these steps to maintain our Stratum environment. So I've got clearly a demonstration environment set up, and so I've already got my interfaces open, and you're going to need the administrative interface. And these look kind of similar, if you notice, uh, and the database install interface. These can be found on the Stratum program group. So if you go to your program group within the where these interfaces have been loaded, you will then see admin database install, right? And of course, there's Planner that some of you use. So we will concentrate on database install and administration right now, just to get us access to creating those tables and then also maintaining these calendars, right? Normally, I go into the database install first, and I will basically go in and go under installation to basically define and create the tables. This will show you the structure codes for all your different categories of data within the Stratum environment. Um, you could use this to highlight, the structure code that you're planning on maintaining, and it will actually show you that this one's daily. So now that I know that actual sales uses a daily calendar, so that type of information helps as well. You don't really need to do anything here per se, other than just review some of the structures that you're loading and figure out what like periodic buckets they're loading, and that will give you a tip off to the calendar. This is one way to check to see what calendar these categories are using. There's another way too. I'll show you that in a second. So I'll close that. Really nothing to do there other than just review. And then for define tables, if you go in there, you'll see that for each category it'll show the series of tables that they have. So for instance, if I go into accruals, in this instance, you can see it's a 64 bucket structure. Some of you may run a 64 bucket structure, some of you may not. Normally we see a lot of more of the daily 366 structure and then a monthly 12 bucket structure. But in this case, it's a 64 bucket structure. If I highlight sales, it'll then show me all the tables within the sales environment. And, as you can see, these show by the different years that you can see. The nomenclature of these tables is such that it shows you the year. See that 15 there? There's 15, 16, and 17. So within that nomenclature of the pattern and detail table, you can see what year that has been created already, right? These will also show up in red if they contain data. Nothing to freak out about, but it will also show you which tables have data in them. So there's that, right? There is something that you would do here. For instance, if I look at this, I don't have 25, I don't have 26 created. So, if I wanted to create 25, I would then type in 2025 here for actual sales, and then I would click on perform. And then if we go down here, then we can see that these tables have been created, or at least not created, but defined, right? Because you'll need to go into another interface to get them created. So nothing's changed here. If you're already used to doing this, this is the same way you've been doing it all along. Okay, for how many years you've been in maintaining Stratum, this is basically the same stuff. So you'll go through that's why it helps to go through and kind of have a knowledge of which categories you're running, because some of them may be old that you're not, or some just you're not using. So you want to have a good idea of which ones you want to create table or define the tables for. Um, so that's the define tables. If then we go into the create tables, and I got a little confused. I'm sorry. This is where it shows you the red table. It'll show you whether you have data in those tables or not. So I apologize. So when you define the tables, nothing shows up in red there. You just basically go in there and create the tables that you need for the future years. This is the actual interface. Notice that I don't have any data for my accruals. Oh, actually I do. Well, I'm really getting everything wrong. Nevertheless, we do have tables or data within the 24 tables. So this is how you can see, where you've populated data. It's informational. Don't freak out. It's not something that, you need to worry about. So, and if you created your tables for 26 for any one of these structures, or 27, because you can build out if you want to as well, you can then go ahead and click on the create table button, and it will then create the tables that you defined in the prior step. Okay. You should not get that error. It's not really error per se. It's just that there's a stored procedure that's not available within my environment. So no big deal. The tables were created. So now I've got the tables that are ready for my accruals, and then for my sales, of course, I can go in and back into the create tables. And if I highlight my actual sales, it's actually now going out and retrieving my record counts for actual sales so that it shows me the proper tables that have data in them. So some of this might take a minute to retrieve that data. And as you can see, it's already retrieved. So I've got data going back to 2013. And then, here I've got 27, everything created up to 2017. There's a gap of data there in 18 and 19. You probably wouldn't see that. This is a demo environment, so it's not, in production per se. Here's 24, there's 25. So, if I wanted to create the 25 tables now that as you can see, I had no data in them. Again, I would click on create tables. Same thing here. It rolls off the scripts and then creates the tables. Don't worry, the tables that have data in them, you won't lose that data. Okay. It knows not to recreate those tables. All right. So that's the creation of the tables. So, and that's really all you need to do there to basically set up the tables for your new year. Once that's complete, then we can move on to our calendar work. Okay. So the first thing I would want to do is go into my administrative interface. So that's going to look like this in the program group. And there's the admin interface. And there's the database install we just got done with. So you go into admin, it opens, and then if you go under data views, you'll see two options here called view sets and view groups. And this is what we call the different elements of time that you need to maintain. If we go into view sets first, the reason why you want to go in here is because you want to go to your year view set and view items. So if you click on that, it will then show you all the calendar years that have been defined. Okay. So if you don't have 26 ready or 27 out there, you can and I'm just removing them. Oops. So that you can it'll show you a way to get them added in. So I just got rid of those just to show you this. So here's I'm actually adding in. Um, Here we go. So you click on add the new year, and oh gosh, what's going on? Yeah, let's just close this. Let's just kill it. And there it bombs. Nice. All right, going back into the admin interface. Okay, so here's my view sets. Let's just create the new one. So I'll click on add for 2028 and voila, it appears. So again, this is what you'll do to come in and create your years. If I want to add another one, I click on add, it then creates that blank space there, and now I can create 2029 as well. You want to make sure that this concurs with your descriptions. So if it doesn't, you can key that in too. And there's 2029. So now you're ready to close, and now you can save. It'll warn you, hey, this is stuff that's attached to, view groups. So make sure that you go through your mapping. Um, do you still want to make these modifications? Yes. So now I've created the new years that I want to do the mapping for, and I can go ahead and close this interface, this menu, I should say. Still in the administration interface, I then go to my view groups. If you don't know which view groups you want to maintain, here's another way to see which categories use which view group or view calendars. If you go under File Data Source, this will show you all the categories. For instance, actual sales is daily. If I go to my budget category, that's monthly. So that's typically what you're going to see. Um, some of these are 64 bucket structure that are weekly. So this gives you a nice place to review your structures that you want to maintain and to find out which calendar view group they're using. So I'm going to close that. And now we're ready to go into our view groups. So if we open up our view groups, there's the daily calendar right away. And here's all the different time uh, elements that are attached to that. So daily rolls up nicely, obviously, to weeks, months, quarters. If we then click on view buckets, it'll then show us the mapping menu for the daily structure. Up here, if we select the years that we want to map, we can also go into prior years and see how it's mapped. So if we look at 2026, it's already been created. Notice that there's my days going down all the way to 365. So, you want to make sure that that matches your last day clearly. And all these dates concur with these dates over here, which I'll show you in a second. I'll uh, go through this to map in the new year that we added. And then you can go in and select, the different other uh, definitions of time that you have here as well, and see how they are. And this one actually builds off of another definition. Notice how days is using buckets, whereas fiscal month is using the weeks. So once you define your days, and then you create you can then use your days to define other things, and then if you define your weeks, then you can go ahead and use that as well. If we look at our months, the months are being created by the days. So we're using the days that we define, not the buckets. So if we go into back to day and we select 2027, that's mapped. If we look at 2028, it's not mapped because we just added it. So now I need to map my day. And here we can just set up our buckets 1 to 1. It's 1 day, and it's going to be January 1st of 2028. And if I tab through this, it'll clearly just map this for me. So I'm just clicking on tab, and if I hold it, it'll run, right? So now I'm actually going through this. And for you out there, if you know it at 2028, you know that 2028 is special. Why is it special? Because it's a leap year. So you're going to map in 2029. Make sure that that's in there. 6, you don't have to worry about that. For instance, if I was doing 2026, I actually would not map that 2029. I would actually make that a 0 and put in my default date that was already there, which is January 1st of 1980. And then you would then continue to bucket to 60. And then this would be actually 61, right? And then you can keep tabbing through. So that's what you would do on a non-leap year. Does that make sense? You don't want to map in February 29th. It doesn't exist. Um, but we do know that it is. So we'll go ahead and adjust these. Ready to roll again. So now I'm holding the tab down and it's just filling everything out for me. We could review this later before we save. And we're just going down the line here. Don't have any other things to worry about other than leap year, February 29th. Okay? Just keep going, keep going, keep going. This will everything for me for my daily calendar. Okay, well, what I was basically going through is just mapping out the days, tabbing through. Well, that's the year creation. So if I go into my view groups, I was just mapping in those new years that I created. So when I go into my view sets, um, this is where I created that new year, right? So if you go into your view items, then you can go in and look for the new years that you need to create. Click on add and create 2030 if you need to here as well. And there's 2030. And then once you create your bucket mappings, then um, you're good to go. I mean, Typically, it's going to be either daily, weekly, or monthly for the mapping that you'll go through here. Uh, and hopefully you heard that part where I went into my data sources to find out, what calendars they're using for each one of my categories of data. And that'll tip you off about which categories that you're loading, and what calendars they're using, so you know how to maintain them. That's view calendars. Okay. Now we need to talk a little bit about import calendars, because some of your categories might use import calendars it depends on how you do your data processing. You might hand Stratum a bucket number, and then we would need to figure out and assign a date to it. Um, or you would just send me a date and I would need to bucket that. It's actually quite the opposite of that. So for instance, if you're giving me records with just a date on it, well, we need to figure out what bucket that needs to live in within Stratum. And so if you're not doing that, if you're actually giving me the bucket number, then I wouldn't have to create an import calendar for that structure. So for sales, we know we're doing a daily view calendar, so we know that the month or these years are going to be daily as well. So if I go in, and as you can see, I only have an import calendar created for going back to 2024. So if I click on new, I can then create a new import calendar for 2025 and so in 2026 and onward if I wanted to. So for the import calendar, I would then put in my first date to start to tell the program this is where I want to start for my calendar. And I can go ahead and click on generate, and it will actually generate out my import calendar for me. And then I can click on save to save that away. If you click on new, again, I can then go in and create 2026, and we'll see how it handles leap year. So we'll need to change that to 2026 for my starting date, and we'll click on generate. And interestingly enough, this interface knows that it's leap year. So it'll include that in, well, is it a leap year? I thought 2026 was a leap year. It should map that in for you. And then you would need a 360. So this should go to 366. So for a leap year. If we look at 2024, I'm just not going to say 2026. That does go to 366. So your leap year would be 2028. It should be. So we were just doing 2026. I get it. So we're good. So that's what your leap year is going to look like. Like if I did 2028, we can change that to 2028 and then click on generate. If we go to our leap year, there's 2029. And then that goes all the way to 366. So that's what your leap year is going to look like for the import calendar. So this has to be done if you're using. Another thing is that if you go into one of these and it doesn't have any years created, I'm in a demo environment, so I probably have all the years are created for these. But if you see a blank, for instance, if your sales is blank here, you don't see anything at all, that means you're not using imported calendars. You're probably handing us the bucket. So, it pays to know how you're processing your data. So that kind of gives you an idea of, do I need to go in and maintain these import calendars? And then you can add that to whatever documentation you might have for these tasks. And that way you can go to your documentation and be like, oh, well, we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to worry about import calendars. I had some clients that do the bucketing themselves, and some clients that do a mixture of things, and then some clients rely on the import calendar completely. So it really kind of depends on how you process your data. And then finally, for a connector interface, so we need to tell connector that there's new years out there. So if we open, and this is a program that sits on your server, typically on a Windows box, and this is going to, this is basically the bridge between Stratum and the world of Viewer. So this basically webinizes your data, essentially. That's a technical term, by the way. And it makes it available within Viewer. So if we go in and we open this interface and we go into our measure groups, I'll right click and edit that. Here's where we can see all the measure groups, and we can go in and maintain these. So if I go into accruals and I highlight and expand partitions, we can see there's an opportunity then for us to highlight and check 2025 to make sure that it's available in the connector. Because otherwise, if you don't do this, even though you might have data on the back end relational side, the users won't even see the option for this year unless you do this. So you want to go through all your different measure groups here, your categories of data, and make sure that the partitions include that new year that you've added. And just check it on. And then click on Save. Okay? That's really it. So, in terms of the tasks that you would need to go through, there's one other thing you might want to check is there's a couple of programs that run to ensure that the data is formatted properly for viewer. Those programs are called Load OLAP and Create OMAST. And so you might have a CL out there with those programs. Just want to make sure that those are not specific to the year. Those programs actually allow you to specify the year that you want to run them for. So some clients have a long running line of jobs for those programs that are specific for a given year. So you want to make sure that you add the new lines for the new years as well. Again, there's you can do all years as well, so you may not be specifying the year for those programs. If you need any help, don't hesitate to contact me, and I can certainly, point you in the right direction in terms of whether you need to maintain those programs or not.